Welcome to W5. She was known around the world simply as Annette. Her full name, Annette Funicello. She burst onto TV screens as a child star, a musketeer in Disney's Mickey Mouse Club, then a pop star and teen movie queen, the girl for whom Paul Anka wrote Puppy Love, an actor whose wholesome image won her millions of fans. But about 20 years ago, Annette revealed an agonizing secret. She had been diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and Annette was among the 10% of those with the worst kind of MS, a steady downhill descent with no cure. She vanished from public view. Now, after 2 decades, a W5 exclusive, Annette's story, her struggle with a debilitating disease, and, as Avis Favreau reports, a message from her husband, who has spent a quarter century seeking help for Annette.
Time to twist our mousy dial.
She was dubbed America's sweetheart, one of the first child superstars created by the Walt Disney Empire.
For you and me. Doreen!
Featured in the 1950s show, The Mickey Mouse Club.
Annette!
There was just something about Annette Funicello that made her incredibly appealing, according to her longtime friend and co-star, Shelley Fabre.
I think Annette's inherent sweetness and goodness and kindness just got through the screen.
Hi, Annie.
Came through her and came through her eyes and her whole being.
Beauty is as beauty does. That's what wise men say. Now, if
Annette's stardom flourished as she grew into a stunning young woman. Featured in a series of hugely popular beach movies with co-star Frankie Avalon. Annette Funicello was a 1960s Hollywood princess.
What do your fans think about it, Annette?
Well, most of them seem to be very happy. I hope they are.
Her first wedding at age 23 was followed by fans around the world.
I think for a lot of people today, certainly of a younger age, just have no idea what kind of an impact she was. You know, like the Beatles, like Madonna, but it was on that level.
She became a mother, then divorced, then in 1986, a happy remarriage to a dashing horse breeder, Glenn Holt.
We knew each other for 10, or longer, 15 years. It was like we married one of my best friends,
Annette was now 45 and planning a return to movies. But on one of her first film sets, there were hints something was wrong.
Is that when she started saying she had symptoms?
Yeah, when she was filming this, that's when she first made the comment to me that she was having trouble walking in the sand. She told me she almost fell as she came back down right here. She almost lost her balance there, coming down. Said, I don't know what's wrong. There was something.
At first, people accused her of being drunk. Annette went public with her diagnosis, multiple sclerosis, one of the first celebrities to put a face to MS, explaining the fatigue and disability it can cause. America's sweetheart was now using a scooter.
My story doesn't have...
Her voice shaking on this one of her last TV appearances in 1995.
Thank you for telling us the story.
You're welcome. Bye.
And as the disease progressed, she slipped from public view. For the last 15 years, Annette Funicello has been out of the public limelight. Now her husband wants to lift that curtain to let the world see the cruel and devastating effects of multiple sclerosis.
Hey, good morning, baby. Hey, you look awful good.
This is Annette today at her home in California.
I'll help her do your hair, okay?
She's now 70 years old. She lost the ability to walk 8 years ago, stopped speaking nearly 3 years ago.
Hey, baby. Hey, baby. Okay. Just go slow, baby.
she has 24-hour nursing care.
There we go. Here, baby, let me put your glasses on.
But Annette's primary caregiver is her husband, Glenn. He's now 81.
She's my wife. I love her. I'll take care of her. I don't regret it by one iota. When we got married, we promised we would take care of each other. Come hell or high water, you know. And when she was diagnosed and started all this stuff about MS, I told her, I said, well, I'll take care of you, honey, and I'll do everything I can do. I love you. Love you, baby. I just tell her, hey, you're my baby. You want to go to the ranch today, baby, and go for a ride, huh? We'll go out and take a look around, okay? A big, nice look at me with those big, brown, bright eyes is telling me thank you, you know. I'll be back and check you in a minute, all right? Okay.
It may be a shock for a generation that treasures the beauty of Annette Funicello to see what 25 years of progressive MS has done. Glenn's message: to tell the world she is loved and cared for.
You talk to her? Do you think she talks to you
I talk
back?
to her, and she understands me. She answers me, some, you know, in her own type of way, you know. I take her shopping. I take her out. And she loves to go.
And virtually every day, they take a drive.
There's almond trees there and cotton over here on this side. Hey, baby, is okay? You okay, baby?
There are some people who will think she must be preserved in people's minds exactly as she was. But exactly who she was is not who she is now. And in order to get people to understand the ravages of this disease and what happens, there is no better way.
Is it clear enough back there, Lillian? Okay.
Is this what Annette would have wanted? Her friend Shelley says yes.
I believe in my heart, if she felt on any level that it would help one person, let alone quite a few, that she would say, here I am.
It's been a heartbreaking case for her longtime doctor, Jeffrey Solberg.
I have many patients with MS who are doing fine and are in remission and have responded beautifully to standardized treatments. And that is in that subset of patients that did not have that luck.
Over the last 2 decades, Annette and Glenn have been on a long journey to find something to help stop her MS, and they've tried just about everything, from approved drugs to more powerful experimental medications, all to no avail. One, in fact, nearly killed her.
One time a guy wrote a prescription for something, I don't know what they called it, and I think she had taken it for about 5 days, and she wound up in ICU.
Glenn said they even let doctors install a pacemaker in her chest with wires into her brain to control her shaking hands. It didn't work for long. Annette's celebrity didn't win her any reprieve from this disease. If anything, her fame made her prey to what Glenn calls a parade of charlatans who wanted to use her to sell worthless therapies.
There's been doctors to get a hold of me to want to treat her with gimmicks so they can say that I'm treating Annette and she's getting better, and they would flock to them and they'd make millions of dollars. But I don't allow that.
I've seen Glenn be at times very upset and discouraged by some of the things that were hopeful, as anyone would be when they're pursuing something that's as important to him and his wife as something like this. And of course, you get your hopes up, and then when there's a lack of response or an adverse reaction, your hopes get dashed. And it's a roller coaster. But these are basically optimistic people.
She said if we could find something that could help me, maybe we could help many, many other people.
But Glenn says that even after 25 years of failed treatments, they've never stopped searching.
Hey, you look awful pretty today.
Now he thinks he's found something new that he believes is helping his beloved Annette.
Next,
it might be something worth trying.
an unproven treatment.
I know that it's not the whole answer.
What help can it offer a ruined body?
It needs to be researched further.
When W5 continues.
Annette Funicello was one of the world's most beloved teenagers.
Oh, this is Annette, Mike. Well, I've only been here a few days.
Her name immortalized in television and film.
You better be ready when love comes swinging along.
Okay.
But her husband, Glenn Holt, now wants the world to see the effects of 25 years of chronic progressive MS, a cruel disease that's left her unable to walk or to speak.
I'm sorry that she's this way. I would love to have her back dancing and singing and doing everything she always loved to do. But she can't do it. But I'm not a runner. I'll be right there by her side.
And though she's been out of public view for many years, Annette still gets fan mail every day.
Oh, got another fan letter.
That's how Glenn learned about something called chronic cerebral spinal venous insufficiency, CCSVI, first reported on W5 in 2009.
Prendiamo l'iniettore, esatto.
Italian vascular surgeon Paolo Zamboni had found many patients with MS have blocked veins that stop blood from draining out of their brains.
Narrowing. Yes.
It contradicts conventional medical belief that MS is caused by immune system failure, and it proposes a treatment opening the narrowed veins to let blood flow normally. For Glenn, it was another shot of hope.
Wow.
Glenn's question, did Annette have this condition and could she be treated? It was yet another experimental idea he ran by Annette's doctor, Jeffrey Solberg.
When Glenn came to you with this new theory about blocked blood flow, what did you say?
I didn't want to be supportive of anything that I thought would be of greater risk to her than the theoretical benefit. And after exploring more information from the people who are actually doing the procedure, I started having a little bit more confidence in the idea that it might be something worth trying.
At Tri-City Medical Center in California, interventional radiologist Don Ponick had also heard about CCSVI. In fact, he'd started treating MS patients with this novel approach.
But you're intrigued.
Oh, very much so. I mean, we think there's something going on. We don't know exactly what, but there's something going on.
In a recent study, he and colleagues tested over 250 MS patients. Most had blocked blood veins, and when doctors restored blood flow by opening small balloons inside the veins, about half of the patients reported some of their symptoms were lessened or gone 6 months after treatment, and there were few side effects. Glenn asked Dr. Ponick to test Annette.
So that's her head up at the top.
So this is her chin, and she's facing this way toward the left.
Scans showed Annette had the same unusual problems being found in others with MS.
And we can see a very tight narrowing there.
He said she just had 30% of normal blood flow out of the right jugular vein, and the left jugular vein was completely blocked.
This is the skull base, and normally we would see blood flow coming down where the catheter is.
So how much blood was flowing down?
None. There was no flow going down. It was all going back up through the brain and down to the other side.
So in other words, instead of coming down, the blood was backing up and going
exactly
reverse through her brain.
It was reversed. When you see a jugular vein with no flow and complete retrograde flow, and then the other side moderately to markedly narrowed, that's pretty significant. So she was on the upper end of severity, I would say.
Her case fits the new theory, but it's not clear if it's playing a role in her disease.
So is it possible that the improper blood flow out of her brain was actually damaging her brain?
Well, that of course is the connection that we're trying to establish. How that relates to the cause or progression of MS or the symptoms of MS, that's where we need to do research, because we just don't know that. And we can see
Some doctors report this therapy may be most effective in those with early stage MS, not those with advanced disease. Still, Glenn asked doctors to treat Annette. First on the right.
And then after we do the angioplasty, we can see now that part of the vein is wide open.
Then on the left.
After we dilated that, there was significant improvement in flow. It's not going backwards anymore.
Annette had this treatment a year ago at a private clinic in California, and Glenn is convinced he saw small improvements immediately.
I saw her in front of my eyes, things changed. The glow of her face came in the procedure.
Another change before the treatment, Glenn said he had to get up several times a night to suction saliva from Annette's mouth.
At night, I hear her swallow. She used to didn't swallow at all. It just had to constantly suction her out.
She's had the procedure. Do you notice any changes?
Well, Glenn perceives day to day that there's been some changes. I mean, I cannot see them, be honestly. But remember, she's had the disease for a long, long time. And the disease has done a terrible damage to her nervous system. And that damage is the thing you can't undo.
Maybe you're seeing these changes in her because you want to see them.
What I have seen is positive. I'm not an easy one to be fooled. I call an ace an ace, you know.
Do you believe you've seen something here?
I see something that's very positive, and it needs to be researched further.
So why does Annette have this strange blood flow? And would treatment sooner have helped? Glenn is now a man with a mission to use a foundation Annette set up years ago to raise money to study this new theory and its possible effects on the brain.
But how do you know she wants you to back this and get money for research for this?
She told me to handle it, you know, all along. Do everything you can do to get this to go.
What if it's wrong?
I can't see how it can all be wrong when I've seen changes in my wife already.
Just came from the printer.
The Annette Funicello Foundation for Neurological Diseases now has a board of advisors who meet with Glenn.
What the goals are.
Like Carol Schumacher. She has primary progressive MS, just like Annette. Doctors found she had blocked veins, and Carol now says her health has improved since she was treated.
Technique and methods. I know that it's not the whole answer. I know that there's much more to this disease than just the blockages in the veins. And I don't think we've sorted that all out. But I know that it's an important element, because I had progressive MS like Annie. And I never got better before. I only got worse.
This could have been your future?
This was my future.
But there are many who strongly oppose this theory. Some studies say blocked veins aren't linked to MS. Other studies are finding it in other neurological diseases, even in healthy people. And some doctors question if the treatment really helps.
I think that there's a lot of work that needs to be done to determine that. And I don't think that it's fair to hold out, hope for patients until that's known and until the risks and benefit are clarified.
But some research stopped after the U.S. Food and Drug Administration issued an alert early 2012, saying the link was inconclusive and enforcing strict rules saying all clinical studies now required FDA approval.
This is the original Mouseketeers that Annie started with.
While Annette's case doesn't prove anything and Glenn knows it, he's hoping her name, her worldwide fan base, will help him get money and the momentum to help doctors find answers quickly.
She wore that dress.
It's the type of research that someone has to be devoted enough to put money behind it and really try to understand it. And there are people in the United States and around the world who are willing to do it. They want to do it. Now I think we need people like Glenn or others to help get it going.
And so after years of being out of the spotlight, Annette Funicello is being placed back in the public's eye.
Here we go, baby.
By her husband, who wants to tell her fans about the only treatment he thinks has made even a bit of difference in 25 long years.
Down, and we'll finish your hair in there, okay? I want to touch them. I want to touch their hearts so they will get out there and help us to raise some money. And I'm going to continue trying to fulfill her wish, and that's to help find a cure. Find the cause and the cure.
Why is it so important for you to find something that worked for her? Why was it so important?
Why? Because she's my wife, and I love her, and I wanted to help her. You know, that's why it was very important to me. You know, and if with her popularity and stuff, if we could, she always wants to help somebody. And she said if we could find something that could help me, maybe we could help many, many other people. Because she said it, her words, as far as I have seen myself, I haven't seen anything that's helped me at all. Everything we have tried either did nothing at all or made me worse.
That's what she used to say.
That's what she said.
Yeah.
And I say the same thing.
Then some of the other things that you tried was you said someone approached you with a cap.
Oh, a hat, yeah.
That was supposed to activate one of...
It stimulate it's supposed to stimulate the pineal gland in the brain.
That too.
They tried that for probably a month because it wasn't invasive. It wasn't taking poison. It was a little hat with lights on it, flashing, and it was supposed to stimulate the pineal gland.
Did it work?
No, it didn't work, and he left it with me and said he couldn't be there for a week or so, and you do this twice or 3 times a day for 20 minutes, but don't take this thing apart, you know.
And you took it apart?
I took it apart. It had a 9-volt battery in there with wires with little twinkling lights like kids wear around their neck for Halloween.
Did you feel taken?
I wouldn't pay nothing. I just, the guys wanted to use her name, and if he could get her to have a little bit of a placebo effect and get her to say, oh, I feel a little better. But she would not lie. And she said, no, it's not helping me at all. And I decided I wanted to try it with Annie, and I talked to her, and she wanted to try it. And we did it. It made changes with her. No earth-shattering changes, but like her arm is up here now, it was then. And after they did the, and her legs was like, knees was in a sitting position, and after, I'd say, the second night and the third night after she had that, maybe some even the first night, when she was in bed, her arm straightened out, you know, and more, and got straight beside her leg, and her leg straightened out. And there was other things, you know, she had like, she was kind of pale-faced, you know. She had a little rash around on her neck. And while we were right there in the room. Lydia and I were watching her with a suction machine right there in case she strangled. We watched that redness disappear and color in her face come. She just all of a sudden looked brighter. Oh, they sound small, but you get to thinking about it, that's pretty big. She's not walking, singing, dancing, but I see changes. And you know, to me, when you can see some changes, like they always say, where you see smoke, there's fire. And there's a lot of smoke, you know, that there's too many things that I can see, little things.
I believe you've seen something here.
I see something that's very positive, and it needs to be researched further.
Right. So what do you want to do with her foundation now?
I want to raise money and support this and I want to check all kinds of neurological diseases, not just MS. You know, there's people with Parkinson, the ALS. I lost a good friend to ALS.
What do you want people to know?
I want them to see her condition today, because there've been so many people saying that she's in a coma and she's comatose and all this stuff, and you know, and I want to touch them. I want to touch their hearts so they will get out there and help us to raise some money to help maybe 1 million people that's got this over the world. I don't know. I hear different stats on it all the time, but we want to help. She does, and I'm going to continue trying to fulfill her wish, and that's to help find a cure, find the cause and the cure.
I think Annette was called America's sweetheart for one reason. She was. I mean, she just was. Now, it came about because everybody, myself included, saw her on the Mickey Mouse Club. And I think most of us who grew up in that generation, we loved just watching the Mickey Mouse Club. And we loved all the Mouseketeers. But there was something about Annette. And everybody just fell in love with her. I think the first signs of MS that I saw with Annette were a little bit of stumbling and in walking, you know, bumping into something, or really nothing that I thought anything about. And in fact, what happened was that some of the kids that went to school with her kids would say things like, "Oh, my mom and dad's, you know, kids are kids. My mom and dad saw your mom out to dinner, and they said she was drunk." And the kids would come home and say, "Mom, they're saying that you're drunk," and you're da 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 da, because she'd stumble, and she'd, you know, sometimes not actually fall, but somebody would catch her. So that's why Annette finally came out and told everybody. She would just approach it with this sense of, this is what I have to do now. This is what has to be done. And she would just go ahead and do it. And I think that's how she's gone through the whole illness. I've never heard her complain once. Not once. Not about one thing. I mean, it's absolutely astonishing. And as I said, never has this been the feeling that she was in denial about anything. Never. But just no complaints. Just, it was what it was. In the beginning stages to the middle stages, where she could start to do something and then maybe she would need help to finish it, whatever it would be, Glenn was always there to do it, or one of us was around. But always, always, Glenn was there. He's been heroic, just heroic. And he treats her exactly the same as he did when they first met and got married. He just adores her and treats her like his princess, his love, his sweet love. There's just no break in how he's treated her all of these years. To watch Annette going through this illness has been devastating, heartbreaking, infuriating. It just has been so cruel to her without ever letting up. It just kind of kept coming at her. And it breaks your heart. My hope for what comes out of this film that's being put together and this combined effort that everybody's making is that, yes, that people will donate funds to her foundation, Medical Research Foundation, to allow research to go on to find out what causes this disease, what we can do to help it, and ultimately, of course, what can we do to eradicate it. And that can't be done any other way than funding and research. And so my hope is that people will see this, and because of their love for Annette for so long, I think it's a harsh lesson for people to have, but I think when they're confronted with that, they'll understand that that's what MS can do. What Annette would like her fans, her friends, all the people who love her so much to get from all of this is that we are all one. We're all exactly the same. We're much more like one another than we are different from one another, and that the things that happen to you happen to me, the things that happen to me happen to you, or can happen, and that we really all do need to help one another. And this is her way at this point in time of saying, this is help that's needed.